Well, Mountaineer Nation, that was a rough one. Our boys in Old Gold and Blue fall on the road to the Kansas Jayhawks 41-10 in a game that really wasn't all that competitive. Thanks for tuning in for this edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports, and I'll try and keep it brief because I don't have a whole lot to say about this. Unfortunately, there aren't any type of plays or series or chronological points that we can hit on that dictate any sort of a narrative from this game. This one felt just like the 2022 game at Texas, if you remember that one. Felt very uncompetitive early on, and you could just tell there was there was disparate talent on the field. Whereas where I feel with the Texas Tech game, sorry, I almost said Texas A&M game in the regular season finale last year, that team just quit. I wouldn't accuse this West Virginia team of quitting in this game. No, it got a fourth down stand inside its own 10-yard line late in the third quarter. It had a touchdown series once it went to Jalen Henderson in the fourth quarter and scored points. Although he might have been playing against some second-teamers out there. I wouldn't accuse this team of quitting at any point like it did in the Texas Tech finale last year. No, unfortunately, the absence of Ty Edwards due to injury pregame completely changed the whole dynamic of this offense, and throwing off the offense in the way that the form and fashion of this game did not allow for whatever semblance of complementary football that you want to call it. The defense was on the field way too long. The offense couldn't support it whatsoever, and things just snowballed. And as I watch more college football year after year and how the game has changed, especially being in this Big 12 conference where games come down to one possession so frequently, you have to have complementary enough football that you can stay in it for four quarters when you're going against teams of comparable talent or better. If you can't keep up series after series, and whether that's defensive stands or that's scoring points to keep up, and that was the problem. West Virginia didn't score enough points to even this one out. I really wasn't all that impressed with Kansas in certain areas. I think Emmanuel Henderson Jr. is a pretty damn good wide receiver, pretty complete, big, fast, strong. I think LaShawn Williams, as a number 2 running back in complement to Daniel Highshaw, looked pretty good, but that was about it. I mean, this was not at all an A-grade performance by Jalen Daniels of Kansas. I mean, good enough whenever you look at it in totality of a 3-touchdown performance. And then he did have 200 total yards in this one combined, but only 12 completions on the day. Missed a lot of receivers, some open, some not. Broke open, then this is what we said. Unfortunately, if he could break through and contain, pick up first downs, it's going to be demoralizing, and he did so at least 3 times to my count. Some for big yardage on this day. Yeah, he had a 28-yard gain at one point in time. And you didn't force any turnovers on him. So that's what I was kept thinking is like, man, maybe if the defense causes a turnover here, if you get some sort of interception or fumble recovery, do something. And then the absence of Preston Fox pretty much neutralized any sort of ability on special teams. You're pretty much relegated to calling fair catches at this point in time, both in the kickoff coverage and punt coverage. So it's just like these injuries are starting to mount to a point that it's a problem. Most notably is, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it that's going to bring Jaheim back for this season. But I'm still salty and still mad about the Jalen Knighton situation. I mean, everyone was kind of counting on him to be the number 2 back behind a Jaheim White. Then you find a diamond out of the rough, it feels like, in Ty Edwards. He gives you a full 25 carry performance a week ago, but he's so banged up from that performance that he can't go a week later. And then Cannon Katzer's been injured still since August camp. So, I mean, I didn't think you would need 8 running backs on the depth chart, but now you're down to the last 4. And I'll stick by what I said last week. I'm not going to continue to slander Clay Ash and his talent and abilities because he's giving you everything he can give you. It's just the maximum potential that he has is maybe a change of pace back. Good pass blocker, can come in there and have like a, just a spark play to give a brief rest to your running back one. He's not a running back one. So using him in that potential, like in that case, I knew that West Virginia was pretty like doomed from the first couple, maybe 2 or 3 series, that it was like, oh my goodness, if this is what we're going to, in conjunction with this offensive line, that if you don't have a Ty Edwards back there who can break tackles and make and I feel like make up for a lot of the shortcomings that this offensive line has, and that's what he was able to do against Pitt. Again, everything snowballed. And it's just, I'm getting a little bit of a 2021 feeling here with this team and this season. In that, so like the 2021 team went 2-4 to start out, and then came out, had some surprises, wins at home against Iowa State, wins at home against Texas. I don't know if it's necessarily going to play out that exact way and saying like, oh, wow, in the second half, West Virginia might end up beating both TCU and Texas Tech. I don't know that. I don't think I need, though, to go and it's as bad as it possibly could be. I've been watching football way too long, and I've been burned so many times, I feel like, on exaggerating the point on how I feel as if West Virginia is performing at that point in the season, only to feel punked a week later, and West Virginia turns a corner. They believe in them, believe in themselves. It's usually whenever they play at home. Like, very well, next week they could beat Utah. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that, but I just watched that Utah team get embarrassed on their home field against Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech is probably a top 15, maybe even like a top 10 team in the country at this point in time in the season. But, Utah's Devin Dampierre, looked horrible, awful. So, if he comes back next week and this West Virginia defense stands on its head, the team's excited, they get pumped by their 1965 uniforms, Ty Edwards is healthy, things could come back to normal very quickly. For one thing, I guess, that I can pinpoint from this game that I take away as the bigger picture, and I've listened to some other podcasts out there, and man, are some other YouTube content creators they want to hold back from questioning play calling, but I'll go out and say it. I think that West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez is trying for this season to fit a square peg in a round hole. It all comes back down to Nico Marchiol at the end of the day. And I'm not going to degrade Nico Marchiol. I think he's a very good player. I just think that his skill set and the way that he can play the quarterback position and win games for you do not gel with what Rich Rodriguez wants to do. And I don't think that's not Nico's fault. That's not Rich's fault. It's just when you try and marry the two together, you can get performances like that if you don't have Ty Edwards and your line gets blown off the ball. Unfortunately, Kimo Makaneole is getting ripped right now on social media. I would love to see what his PFF grades. I'm not a PFF subscriber, so I don't know those grades. Some of the clips that you can see some from the highlights of yesterday's games. He left Trey Lathan just like waltz through and crush Nico. And that's the thing is I think now through 4 weeks, the hits that Nico Marchiol has taken when he's trying in pass, he's getting absolutely no time, y'all. And I've been talking to some friends and family in the last 24 hours about that game. It's just like everybody understands it. Everybody recognizes it. That Nico is just not being afforded any sort of liberties that some of these other quarterbacks are. If you don't have the time to throw here's where I'll push back and I'll say it now after 4 weeks to don't Carson sound like a Nico homer or be really biased. I do think that his processing of the play needs to be a bit faster. I think both in his reads, I think both in just the overall movement of the play. I think that's a combination, though, of the added hits that he's already taken up through four games of this season is he's just getting beat to death. It's hurting his confidence. It's holding him back in his lateral movement. He doesn't feel as if he has any sort of protection, so I can't blame him in that regard. So that's why, I hate to say it, but it might be time to move to Jalen Henderson because, very obviously there with his fourth quarter series that he came in, led the Mountaineers to, it kind of depends, I feel like, on what kind of day you're getting out of your offensive linemen in conjunction with your backs. Because very clearly, as we saw from the Backyard Brawl, with some, especially the last two series, is if the protections have decent, West Virginia can run the ball, Nico Marchiol can go out there and he can perform well. But if you get that kind of effort that you got against Kansas, nope, you need a mobile quarterback. You need someone who can put the fear into a defense of not knowing who the ball carrier is going to be. And even if Ty Edwards is maybe healthy, I think it can just add another dynamic to this offensive play calling because Rich is only going to call a game the way that he knows how, with his plays, with his system, with his tempo. And unfortunately, Nico is just, he's a, just trying to use an analogy that people are going to understand. But regardless, it's just not working. I feel like to what the extent of what it capably can be. And when you got some other mobile quarterback options, I feel as if it's worth taking. The other thing that I will just say, I think was the eye-opening revelation from this game is that I think we have to temper any sort. If anybody was out there of having expectations or hopes of say 8 wins like I did in the preseason, I think we really need to temper those and set the bar of, man, West Virginia really just needs to get to a bowl game for this year. Because while I love what this defense is, I really do. Even giving up four points, I think if you don't give up the kickoff return for a touchdown, and you play better complementary football offensively to help out your defense out there, not have them playing from multiple scores down, I think that this could have potentially been a game where the defense was giving up somewhere in the high 20s. Not the 40s. I think that defense is definitely good enough, and they have the rotational bodies to be able to do so. Didn't get any turnovers. You would have liked that, but Kansas had a lot of just options that they could go to. Jalen Daniels had a bunch of different receivers on this day, and they used their motion. I mean, how many plays were they come out in one crazy-looking formation to reset to another to then send another guy in motion, and they were dynamic. That's something that West Virginia can't get to this year. Like I said in the preseason, if this is just phase 1, phase 2 of all that we see for 2025, have to lay the groundwork, I feel like, for what you're doing in 2026. During 2025. So that's why I don't think, because it's just game 4 as of right now, that wholesale changes need to be made just yet. You have a bye week in a couple of weeks. You got a home game against Utah, then you got to go out on the road on a short week against BYU. Then you can come home and maybe craft some things together for the second half of the season. So that's where, you can make the change at quarterback that I'm talking about, but switching out this entire line for a younger line of guys who have eligibility for next year, so on and so forth. I mean, I think it can be worth a try. Don't get me wrong. If you're continuing, you don't want to have the definition of insanity and just repeat the same things that aren't working all over again. But it's just we're not so far removed a week ago from wow, it seemed like West Virginia was turning a corner on its season, again, on the road against a Kansas team that is better than what I had predicted and talked about for all off season up to this point in time. They were at home, again, fresh, where West Virginia is really injured. Now, I can't magically heal. I can't take the West Virginia Swami here and just heal Jaheim White's knee or Preston Fox's head or Ty Edwards' hip and make all of these guys come back together healthily. Only time can do that, and that's what you're not afforded once you get into the season, so week in and week out. But if Rich is only going to call the games the way that, like I always say, I feel as if the best coaches out there are able to be dynamic toward the players that they have. I think it's more so you have to do that more at the high school level, I feel like, than you can do at the pros, because you can draft the players, because you have free agency, you can have signings. But where college is, you kind of got to meet in the middle. You kind of got to take what you have on your roster and try and mold them to the skills that they have. And very obviously, if you give Nico Marchiol enough time to throw in the pocket, he can pick up yards. Watch in the second quarter. If there's anything that you take away from this game is West Virginia in the second quarter was starting to put together some sort of offensive continuity with first down pickups through the air. Then they get to a 4th and 2 situation, don't have confidence in running the ball, but for whatever reason, Rich Rodriguez decides to go 4 verts instead of just, one guy do like a short curl, hit him over on the sidelines, pick up the first down. That one just bonkers to me. So a lot of things that I feel like need to get cleaned up. Special teams, I think in your return game, if you don't have Preston Fox healthy, and then also in your coverage units, especially on kickoff. I think Olive Straw punted the ball really well, and I love that he kicked the ball like 58, 60 yards or something on his first punt, but he outkicked his coverage. And that's why Trey Nagy was able to have like a 30-yard return, set them up near the midfield, and they score on their first series. Now that's just 7 points. You got to score more than 7 points to win a football game anyway in today's world. But that just kind of set the tone. Those were 2 real plays. I feel like the Henderson kickoff return for a touchdown and Ollie Straw putting his punts where they're going to have enough coverage to field it. Those were 2 a little bit miscues, I feel like, last night. And then defensively, not getting any sort of turnovers, not getting a sack on Jalen Daniels. That, for a guy that is turnover prone, I feel as if you have to be able to do that. That's why I say you didn't get bad Jalen Henderson in this day. Jalen Daniels on this day. You didn't get good Jalen Daniels on this day. It was somewhere right in between, and with the other ancillary parts that you had, the 62-yard touchdown run by LaShawn Williams, again, the kickoff return for a touchdown. It just felt as if one thing was getting worse after another when your offense can't pick up first downs, and you just got to punt it right back to them. So I don't think this is anything that I think you just need to burn the tape on this. I'm looking at it right now that only 324 yards of total offense on this day, and it felt like a whole lot less, to be honest with you, if it wouldn't have been for that Jalen Henderson series that they ended up scoring 7 out of. So this is one you got to burn the tape. You got to get back to the drawing board. I think this is where the onus is really put on this coaching staff of taking who do we have healthy and what kind of an offense can we create to pick up first downs. And I don't think you're going to anger the fan base whatsoever at this point in time, because we understand it. I mean, we're West Virginia, for sometimes as edgy as we can be, or just, things of that nature, we get it. And we've all seen now through 4 games how this offensive line is just not up to snuff. So if you're not going to, I think you're right on the border of making some changes very soon, because your expectations for the season goals and stuff like that, I feel like really comes down to about 4 more games. This is a tough schedule going forward. Damn. Utah at home. Utah was a team that people were already saying, hey, Big 12 championship game worthy, in the top 20 in the country. Going on the road to those crazy Mormons at BYU, and a week later, bye week, and then in the back half, TCU, who's on the precipice, if not already. I think they just got into the AP poll rankings. I think BYU did too at 25. I'll still do mine later. So to give you a better reference point for my shows. And then Texas Tech and Arizona State, who came up with a big road win at Baylor. So I'm cutting West Virginia some slack this season. That's why I'm not going to be like screaming, hitting my head against the wall, or some of the, just the anger and vitriol that you saw last year with a team that was supposed to challenge for a Big 12 championship and only could get to 6 wins. So right now, if West Virginia were fully healthy, I would expect West Virginia to perform better. But because then they're suffering so many injuries at so many now, Landon Livingston, went down with an injury in that game. So are you getting Carson Lee at center, bringing in Robbie Martin? Like this is, it's much. I talked about this after the Pitt win. Still is how much of this is going to be just developmental game reps experience for this season, and how much of it is we're trying at all costs to win these games at all costs. That's what's going to be interesting moving forward. I feel like even more so in the home games compared to the road games, where it just feels as if this team doesn't have enough continuity. They're just too new. There's too much newness. Too many guys with 1 year's worth of eligibility that you're not gonna. I don't know how do I want to put this. It's just like the 2018 Will Grier. I always point back to that team because I feel like that was probably West Virginia's best team at winning the Big 12 championship, and just few fumbles here and there in the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State games that determined it. Team that played together, had a lot of continuity together, had talent. Those are the kinds of game, losing to Iowa State that season, losing to Oklahoma State. That's even the Oklahoma game. It was like, that's when everything comes together, and that's when you need to go out there and compete and win a championship. And this team is the furthest thing from that, I think, right now. I think they're just a bunch, especially offensively, a bunch of individuals who are all on the field together at the same time, not necessarily a comprehensive unit. But I think you can get that to gel as this season goes along. But I don't know. It's just a very interesting dynamic of how Coach Rodriguez is going to coach this. And does he make the move at quarterback next week if Ty Edwards has continued to be banged up and he does not see the type of progression in this offensive line that he needs to see? So I think this is a big week of practice for the Mountaineers. Huge. This Kansas game, you need to move off if you haven't already. Shower that one off and move on to the next one. So that's about all I have for you. Love to know your comments and your feedback. Did you turn this off at one point? I didn't. I actually stuck around because I think there's so much more to analyze about this team still, that suffering through that, even though, man, it just felt like after that kickoff return for a touchdown by Henderson, it was like, all right, I'm going to switch to one of these other games out there. This game's over. Then they got to the end of the third quarter, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to suffer through another quarter. I felt that. I related to that. I understood. But again, there's so much individually about some of these players on this team to look forward to, that I still just want to see them compete. I still want to see what are their guts made out of inside? Are they really that hard edge material, and can they show that? But unfortunately, it just was not to be had last night in Lawrence. So credit the Jayhawks, as Neil Brown would say. I think that's a team that is going to compete right in either the upper middle tier or bottom of the top tier of the Big 12. I don't know if they're better than Texas Tech. I don't know if they're better than Baylor. I don't know if they're better than Iowa State. But I think they're somewhere around that 6 mark, 5 through 7, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see how the Jayhawks move forward in competition in the Big 12. So love to know your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. If you've liked this video, please like it so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. Love to have you as a subscriber to my channel. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. Better days will be had, Mountaineer Nation. I truly believe that. It's hard to find right now, but promise you that we will be able to see the light and come out on the other side much better, in a much better place. It might not be this season, though. We might still have some fun moving forward. We'll have to see. But it'll be okay. So Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Let's go. Hail West Virginia and spot the ball, baby.